Mexico is so dangerous. You can't be traveling here alone or as a single mom. The weather is absolutely terrible. Very hard to assimilate and make new friends. This and many other stereotypes is what I have been listening to before coming to Mexico. Hi, I'm Carolina Bon. I recently relocated to live in Mexico, and in this video I'm gonna share 10 things I love about living in Mexico and 5 things I don't like about living here. Before coming here, I had been living in Bali, Indonesia for around 5 years and then spent a few months in the North Shore in Hawaii. Here's a video about what I loved and hated about being in Hawaii. And when I started sharing my plans with friends and on Instagram, a lot of people DM'd me or left comments as well into my YouTube videos about how dangerous it is in Mexico and how bad the idea to relocate here is. So I've decided to make this video to break down some myths and share my experience about living here. Truth is, I had been very biased before coming here because I'm the biggest fan of Mexico. I had been dreaming for such a long time to come and see it, and that actually made me more nervous and anxious because I had been very afraid to come and get disappointed if it turned out to be not as awesome as I had expected. So number one thing I totally love about living here is cost of life, like value for money. I had been traveling a lot, previously living as a digital nomad. Here's a video why I quit my digital nomad lifestyle, and I have many places to compare. So my other favorite places to live include Los Angeles, California, Oahu, Hawaii, Sydney, Australia, Singapore in Southeast Asia, and of course Bali, Indonesia. Leave your feedback in the comments if you're interested to learn more about any of these places, and I'll cover it in my next videos. Currently I live in Puerto Escondido, Oaxaca, Mexico, and before I was staying in Mexico City. Check out some fun things to do in Mexico City. And generally in a lot of different places in Mexico, value for money, like cost of life, is amazing. The quality of everything is just so great. The food, the restaurants, the houses, apartments, and everything else. One exception would probably be Cancun because it's a super touristy place. I made a video if it's worth it or not to visit Cancun. But also comparing to other most popular like downshifting destinations of the world, for example Bali, Indonesia, my personal lifestyle, like renting a separate 2-bedroom house in Uluwatu, Bali, and like having a motorbike, a car, and everything else, it actually turned out to be so much more expensive than living here in Puerto Escondido. But also the quality of everything I was getting for that amount of money, I would rate that as poorer than here, and that at some point with all the tourists getting to Bali, my cost of life could be compared to living in like Venice, Los Angeles. That's crazy, and I could not believe it. That's why I made this decision to leave Bali and travel and go somewhere else. So number 2 thing I really love about Mexico is that it's not crowded and touristy. Of course, if you're going to a museum in Mexico City or like Cancun or some very popular tourist destination, it will be touristy, obviously, but other places like Puerto Escondido and even Mexico City is huge. Not all areas are touristy, and I really love it that here you can live as a normal person, like mixing with just normal people that live here rather than just a separate foreigner living in a separate dedicated community for your nation or something like that, which I personally find very wrong. And also thing number 2.5 probably is that tourists and foreigners behave absolutely different as in other places. That was one of the reasons why I left Bali, Indonesia, is there are so many foreigners that's not mention the particular countries that they are escaping. I don't want to make this channel political, but this is almost unbearable to be around them, especially if you understand the language that they are speaking and they're being rude to like waiters in your favorite coffee shops and at the beach. So here, a good thing I noticed that a lot of tourists and foreigners that come to live in Mexico or stay here for a bit, they try to assimilate, be nice, polite, and they are not rude and annoying. Number 3, weather. I believe it's totally amazing. Mexico is a very big country, so there are so many different climate zones. You can choose whatever you like depending on your preferences and taste. I recently made a trip from Puerto Escondido to Cancun, which is like flying all across the country with a stop in Mexico City, and the weather was so different. Like it's super hot here and pretty humid. In Puerto Escondido it's around 30 degrees. Now also was the hurricane season, so the wind is pretty strong and it sometimes rains. And then there in Cancun it's more tropical, it's more humid than here. It feels hotter, but it's also around 32 degrees. And at the exact same time in Mexico City it was the rain season, so it's around 16 degrees with raining, and it's very cool and chilled, and I really love to stop there just to be in the cold weather for a bit. Number 4, of course, the most obvious thing is the food. The food is amazing. Even if you're not a fan of particularly like Mexican cuisine and you don't want to eat tacos every day, which I personally find a crime, because even before coming to Mexico I had already been cooking tacos and quesadillas ideas every day. Leave your feedback in the comment if you want some cooking vlog from me. I was thinking to make a video about cooking tacos with ants, you know, the flying like grasshoppers or ants that they have here in Oaxaca. After it rains, people go out in the morning to catch them in a plastic bag, and then they fry it with salsa and put it inside tacos and actually eat it. And a lot of my friends tried it. So if you want to learn some tips how to cook insects in your tacos, leave your feedback in the comments. Number 5 is a lot of fun and interesting places to travel even inside the country. Once you arrive to Mexico, you can go and travel in all the different places, see the pyramid, and it's very different, diverse, and super interesting. Number 6 is of course the culture. I shared more things to explore and places to check out in Mexico City. For example, Museum of Anthropology, and it was absolutely fantastic and so interesting to go there. Number 7 is the people. The people are super kind and nice and friendly. I had a little bit of trouble when I just arrived to Mexico City and 6 months ago, and I had completely forgotten all Spanish, but previously I had been speaking it for work. I needed it for one of the projects I was running, and I was so reluctant to relearn it again. It's such a pain when you already know something and then totally forget. Share your feedback in a comment if it ever happened to you. So when I arrived to Mexico City, I tried ordering a coffee or food in restaurants using English, and people were not really happy about it. So immediately, just in one day, I had to switch to speaking Spanish, and then it completely solved the problem. I heard a lot of stereotypes about this place where I live, Puerto Escondido in Oaxaca, and I can say that it's a total myth. Like, people are super helpful, supportive, nice here, and it is not hard to assimilate or make new friends. If you're traveling a lot or relocating to new places, I made a video how to make new friends after you move to a new place. Check it out. The next thing, and I have been hearing this a lot, is about safety, that Mexico is dangerous, and it's dangerous to travel here as a solo female traveler or as a single mom or whatever else. And this honestly drives me insane, because as I already mentioned, Mexico is a huge country and it's very hard to speak about a crime rate in such a big place. And obviously I don't have other statistics as you can find online on the news or elsewhere. After a very quick research, you can Google that crime rate is so much higher in a lot of places in the States, for example in Oregon or in Baltimore or Detroit. One love. So of course, if we're not talking about some particular places with high crime rate like the border or somewhere else, I have never been there. In this video I'm talking about places that are most popular for foreigners to live and relocate, for example Mexico City or here in Oaxaca or around Cancun or many other places with a low crime rate, and it's absolutely safe. Number 9 is the lifestyle. It's very diverse here, and you can definitely find a place to fit your personal preferences and your lifestyle. I found it perfect for me here in Puerto Escondido because I can train, go to the gym, surf, and work online. If you like nightlife, there's a lot of options here and in Mexico City as well. So generally I would rate it very diverse and great. And the last but not least thing that I really love here about living in Mexico is of course the surf. I live in the Mexican pipeline, Cicatela, Puerto Escondido, and it's absolutely fantastic. I've shared more in this video about surfing in Puerto Escondido. Check it out. And I was also supposed to share things that I don't like about living in Mexico, but that would be super hard for me. I'm very biased. I'm the biggest fan of Mexico ever existed in the history of humanity, but I will try to come up with some things just to make this video honest and realistic. So number 1 thing, which may be not very good for some people, is that generally people don't really speak English well in a lot of places here, and it's for sure better if you do speak some Spanish. So it's not that I don't like this about living in Mexico. Of course I love it. One thing you should consider before moving here is that maybe try to learn some language before coming here. It will be very helpful. Number 2 thing, which is not very comfortable for me, is that they don't have Venmo. And it's very stupid, I know, but just make sure you have a number of different cards when you're coming here. Sometimes some ATMs don't work for specific cards. I have a very large variety of different cards from all over the world, so I don't have a problem. But for example, you can use TransferWise, you can also get a card. Normal cards from American banks also work fine almost everywhere. It's very hard for me to come up with disadvantages, but if I have to name something that I don't like, I would probably have to mention traffic in Mexico City. Here we don't have traffic at all, and it's such a blessing after Bali, Indonesia, because I'm so tired of traffic and just being on the road for hours, forever, every day. But in Mexico City, during specific times of the day when everyone's going to work or coming back after work, there may be traffic, and it's a bit annoying. Number 4, I mentioned this as a perfect thing because it's perfect for me, but I have been hearing a lot from other people who have been living in Mexico that they don't actually like the weather. Some people don't like it that the seasons don't change. So for example, here it's hot all year round, but there is a hurricane season that is a change. This is not actually funny, and it is scary for me. Leave your feedback in the comment what kind of weather you like. And number 5 thing is the crime rate and safety concerns, which are valid for some parts of Mexico, but for sure the famous and popular tourist destinations such as Mexico City or Puerto Escondido are totally safe for any foreigners to travel and live here. Check out my other video about stereotypes on Mexico and living in Puerto Escondido and surfing here that I had heard from other people, where I'm breaking down if it's true or not, and subscribe to my channel to learn more about moving to Mexico.